hello everybody. This is Steve Ducker, editor of Demolition and Recycling Internationl, and delighted to say I'm joined today by Frank Bodami, who is one of the owners of Total Wrecking and Environmental, based in Buffalo, New York State, US. And there are some very interesting projects going on with his company at the moment, one in particular which we'll talk about. So before we get to that, Frank, thank you for joining us. Welcome. And perhaps you could say a few things to begin with about Total Wrecking and Environmental and what the company does and what it's been up to in recent times.
Sure, Steve. Thanks for having me today. We appreciate that, and our industry is growing, and there are a lot of things happening here in the U.S. Total Wrecking has been really focused on the utility industry and industrial demolition over the past several years. For instance, we've been working on several coal power plants around the country, chemical factories, paper mills, old auto manufacturing facilities, and even taking pieces and parts out of operating plants. And so it's been a very interesting go, and the industry here is evolving as times change with the environmental and moving from coal to green energy. So it's been an interesting go around, and that's been our focus.
It's an interesting company name because it's Total Wrecking and Environmental. So it's almost like you anticipated this move towards the green side of things when you started out.
Well, yeah, and I think when we put our name together, we wanted to put a name together that really said what we did. We're good on interior work, but our focus is on totals, and here in the States, totals means we're going to remove the whole thing, and so we ergo Total Wrecking. And the environmental piece is what we do. We clean up hazardous RCRA, TSCA waste, PCBs, asbestos, metals, and so a part of that is really who we are. And so we needed to put that in our name, and it was the way that we were able to start to brand ourselves in that position.
You mentioned coal-fired plants, power plants earlier, and one of those is taking up a lot of your attention just now, specifically the Lakeland Electric site, the McIntosh power plant in Florida. You're based in New York, that's in Florida. You've gone a long way from home for this job, as it were. What was it about it that attracted you?
Well, so we tour the States. We travel, and prior to that, we did an implosion in New Jersey. We're working for a company called Starwood Energy. We're taking one of their plants down, and we're helping them convert a second plant to natural gas. And the one that we took down in New Jersey was the last remaining coal-fired power plant in New Jersey. And at the McIntosh plant, they're converting, bringing in some RICE units, and they're turning that into gas. And so we're helping to take that down in an active plant. And so we're working, if you will, around several utilities and roadways at that particular plant. So we did our first implosion there. We helped support Wounded Warriors, who's a military, a veterans association there, and we raised some money for that charity. And we've got a second implosion coming up on March 4th, and that second implosion, we have an auction coming up, and the auction will be allowing somebody to take something off their bucket list, and that is to push the button on an implosion. That's going to help support homes for our veterans here. And so we believe in giving back to the community, and one of the organizations that we support is a veterans association, and this particular will help build some houses, or at least a piece of one, hopefully.
Yes. I'm sure you'll get lots of interest in it. I mean,
I hope so.
Blowing something up is everybody's dream, isn't it?
Well, we did. we did one in Jacksonville for a group called Dreams Come True, and helped send some children on their dream vacation who were terminal, and we raised about $16,000 on that particular project. So we're hoping to exceed that last one.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Congratulations on that. You said it. The March 4th implosion is the second one. You've already taken down a 79-meter stack and a 27-meter selective catalytic reduction unit. What
That's
were the
right.
particular challenges of the job so far?
Well, just working in a tight area, what we call a postage stamp, because we don't have a lot of space. And generally, when you're doing a large plant vertically, that material is going to spread out in the same fashion. And when you've got a very small postage stamp, you've got to make sure the material is moving out rapidly as it comes down, because you don't have a lot of space for sorting and separation of different types of material, organization of that material for a long span. So you've got to keep it moving. And that's one thing that we had to plan out properly, and just working in the confines of a working plant, and working with the team over at Lakeland, so that we are all moving in the same direction together.
And how long are you going to be on the site for, and what else will happen after March the 4th?
So they had three boilers there, 3 turbines. And so the way that we're moving through the plant, we're moving through boiler 3. That'll be the next implosion. And then we hit the turbines, they're behind them. And after that, beyond that will be boiler 1 and 2. So we couldn't really work on several areas. We had to work from front to back. So that was a challenge. You couldn't, as we call it, our toys, our heavy equipment, we couldn't scatter them around the whole site. We had to move in succession. And so we'll move from boiler 3 into the turbines, and then into 1 and 2, and we'll clean the site up, and that'll be it. We'll be on to the next.
And you mentioned some of the other industrial jobs that you take on. What else have you got going on at the moment outside of the power industry?
Yeah, so we've got several interesting projects. We're doing a project in West Virginia. As I say, we travel everywhere, and this was a large sprawling building that's connected to an active plant that has PCB lines running through it. And we've had a team of about 50 out there just doing the environmental work for the last 2 or 3 months. And then we'll bring a high reach unit, and we'll take that down in a controlled fashion. So that's going to be another ticklish project, and we'll have to cut that structure away from the other building. It's about 2 football fields long, and so that's another interesting project. But we really get into that type of work where we're able to clean and segregate for the owners, so that we could take care of their hazards in a cost-effective fashion, where there's not commingling of materials. So that's important, so that we could bring them to the right landfill or recycle. That's an important piece of what we do. And we are working on a large tower in the middle of a downtown area. We also do large commercial projects that are in the middle of a very congested area. So working on that postage stamp is one of the things that we shine at. We call it postage stamp because there's really not a lot of area, right? So if you take maybe a 22-story building and there's a 2-story building below it, we kind of like that stuff. So in the commercial area, we would be in downtown anywhere taking down a large structure. Gone are the days of the home wrecking, and that's where we started, probably about 48 years ago. So it's been a good run, and in the future we're working on the same types of work, paper mills, power plants, auto manufacturing, factories, and chemical plants. So them are really the areas that we focus on.
I think it's great that in this age of electronic communications and video conferencing, you still call it a postage stamp. that's
Yeah, and
that's
right.
lovely, you know.
Yeah, it's a small footprint, right? So
Yes,
when we're working on a small footprint, that's our metaphor for it.
maybe for younger viewers, we should call it a thumbnail or something. I'm not sure. But,
That's right.
yeah. I mean, going back uh, to the Macintosh plant, one of the things that's interesting about it, it's not just going to be taken down and then cleaned up and somebody will build houses on it or something. It is actually going to be repurposed, still with um, power and energy in mind. Does
That's
that
right.
make the job different, and does it make any change in how you approach it?
Well, it does because if you're working in an active plant, you have to um, be aware of the things that are around you, and you have to work closely um, with the plant managers and personnel to uh, be able to make sure that we keep them online or uh, understand their needs. And so generally we look for a dedicated representative from the owner's team that our dedicated representative will work with on a daily basis. So they almost join hands at that point, and it's almost a necessary partnership. And so that's the important part of it. If we could do that, then everybody knows each other's needs. And let's face it, we pull up on a site, whether we were there for 3 weeks or a month, estimating it and working through things, we don't know every nuance of their plant. And the idea is to understand that, and uh, as new items arise, we could deal with it collectively together. So that's the important piece of that. So,
And you started as Total in 2013, so it's 2023 now. It's a useful point to just pause and ask you, what the highlights been, and where do you see the the business going from here?
well, we started out, really the team that I have started out in 91. So our whole team have been together since 91. Um, so although our name is Total Wrecking and Environmental, my company was Titan Wrecking and Environmental, and I had a partner, and he wanted to stay small, and he's doing that, and that's great. And we really wanted to take it to another level. So prior to the start of Total Wrecking, we had already been doing industrial work, and my appetite for that just grew. I just saw it as an exciting venture. I was interested in helping out the owners of facilities who maybe didn't have that understanding. Uh, Also, my team, same thing. I mean, we've got 25-year veterans here. And as we moved into Total Wrecking and started to do more of what we did, our focus became on the industrial field. And I think um, working across the United States and doing that type of work is our focus. And um, we've been in a growth pattern. Obviously, COVID uh, put a little hitch in our giddy up, I guess is what they would say in Texas. But but we got through that phase together, and our focus is on the utility industry and industrial. And so that's really our focus, and helping to clean the environment up as we go along and trying to make a better place for our communities. And just really, our slogan is clearing the way for a better tomorrow, and that's really what we want to do. Um, you know, we ask our people that as they're making decisions, ask yourself: is it right for you? Is it right for your company? And is it right for the folks that you're working for? And the folks they're working for is everybody around that facility. That's the whole community, right? And so if we could ask them three questions going into the future, I think we have a very good future ahead of us. And being that we're getting a bit older, we've brought a lot of younger people in that are very smart, so we're excited about that. And some of the folks have been with us for 4 or 5 years and learning and coming up the ranks, and so it's a very exciting time here. We have some family who was excited to get in, and they worked their way in from picking sticks and bricks out on the site to starting to understand some of the inner workings of the office. So there's a place to go.
There's continuity. There's
That's
succession
right.
planning. Yeah. Well, what about the US demolition industry in general? Because you sound positive there, so I guess the overall picture is good as well. But it's not just COVID you've had to deal with; it's supply chains, it's the ramifications of the Ukraine situation. Do you remain optimistic for the US demolition market?
I do. I think that our industry is one of sustainable industries. And one of my mentors early on brought me to the top of, we went up to the top of a casino elevator. We were at the National Demolition Association. I served on the board of directors for 9 years, and a good friend of mine, he's gone now, but he was a really good guy. I'll mention his name, Ron Dokel, and he was salt of the earth and one of the founding members, I believe, of the NDA. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but I think he was a great man. And the thing that he said, he was a very soft-spoken gentleman, and I remember this distinctly. And we got to the top of the elevator, and he says, Frank, he said, come over here. And he brought me to the window, and he said, what do you see? And I said, oh, a lot of people throwing their money away, because there was lights all over. And he asked me several times, guess again, and I gave him several guesses, and he said, no, look at everything out there has to come down eventually. And I said, I get it, Ron. And I guess the idea is that there's always change. And I think that whether it be the power industry, you know, with the online shopping right now, I feel like malls, although shopping malls are starting to convert, there are several of them coming down. So everything has a life expectancy. So whether it's power, paper, or otherwise, I think this industry is good. I feel like the power plants in the United States are going to continue to come down. So I look to the future for at least the next 5 or 10 years that power will be a place to be. And industrial. The United States is talking about manufacturing, which would mean old things have to come down for new things to go up. So I look at that as a positive, and I think that our industry is a solid industry. Our group is a family business. When I say that, I don't mean our company alone. If you've gone to the NDA, you'll notice the difference from our association to other associations. We've all started out in family businesses, and we've just learned through attrition. And up until they wrote a curriculum, and I was involved in that at the NDA for Purdue University. Really, we all learned on site with a dad or an uncle, and so I think our industry is headed in a direction where we're trying to train folks rather than just throwing them out on a site, and that's really important for the safety of the industry. Training your people within, and I think that keeps us a safe industry. So that's important. So I know I got off topic a little bit, but one of the things we're passionate about here is safety. And I wouldn't say that we're the best, but we're close to the best, and we're really working hard on that. It's an industry that needs that. So.
Well, Frank Bodami, owner of Total Wrecking and Environmental. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Look forward to seeing you in at the NDA.
Oh, yes, I'll be there. Thank you.